Hello and welcome back to another episode of Handloader TV. And in this episode we have something very special for you. We're continuing on with an almost long forgotten series on specialty loads. And this one is really unique, something that I've been developing over the past couple of years, trying to figure out how to make it work and to get it to work. So in this episode we're covering what I'm calling the 9mm Luger Super Snake Shot load. And we're going to walk you through step by step how to make this particular snake shot. And what it is essentially a reformed 9mm Luger case to be expanded on to take up some of the room that the bullet would normally occupy with brass and fill that entire case with shot. It's a really interesting and neat concept and something that I finally think I've somewhat perfected, but it is a bit of a process and we'll walk you through that. But the main reason why I developed this load is the more I hunt in Arizona, especially further down south, I always want to have a handgun on me for self-defense, just in case. And regularly in Arizona, I carry a 9mm Luger. And this Glock 19X is an everyday carry gun for me. I'm very comfortable with it. I really like it a lot. I actually have a rig that allows me to carry it on my bino harness very secure, so it's something I take into the field very regularly. And also encountered in the field regularly are venomous rattlesnakes. I've had more than my fair share of close encounters and close calls with said snakes, so as a result I wanted something that I could use if need be to dispatch a snake quickly and effectively, and I didn't want to use anything with a shot capsule or something like that because in my experience over time those can degrade, they can break, then you have shot all over your handgun. You have to be careful racking those in because I've dropped a slide stop on those only to have the capsule shatter and spill shot all up inside my handgun, jamming it up even further. It's just a nightmare. So I wanted something that wouldn't do that and would also reliably cycle the firearm so I could have one round of snake shot in the chamber ready to go if need be, and then I could have a full magazine of defensive loads if need be, and firing that snake shot would reliably cycle the gun so I'd have the rest of that defense load there in the magazine ready to go. So let's go ahead and start out. We'll talk a little bit about the gun and then we'll dive into the hand loading aspect because I'm sure you're very curious about all the stuff we have on this bench. So the test gun that we're going to be using is this Glock 19X MOS, and I'm a big fan of this gun. I've been carrying it for many years. It's a good, reliable, solid handgun. I've run it through many gun sight classes and just had a whole lot of fun with this. And it's pretty much stock, but there is a upgraded Glock performance trigger in it, which I'm a big fan of, really like that trigger, and it's a great duty trigger as well. And then of course I've got a Trijicon RMR up here in a flat dark earth coyote color to kind of match the overall gun. And then mounted below I have a Streamlight TLR7 HLX, which is a phenomenal weapon light, matches this gun perfectly. I like that it doesn't extend past the muzzle. It's pretty much right there at the muzzle. Big fan of that. And overall, I think this is a very common carry gun, if not the most popular carry gun in the United States. And so that's why I settled to use it for this video. But I have tested this load extensively in a variety of other pistols. I have shot this in SIGs. I have shot it in Smith & Wessons. I've shot it in numerous other Glocks, and all seem to be pretty reliable. And that's thanks to how this round headspace is. It matches the headspace perfectly with your standard 9mm Luger. I've got a little headspace gauge here to check that. But we'll kind of go through that a little bit more with the hand loading side. So let's go ahead and take a closer up and we'll walk you through the step-by-step how to craft this particular load. So before I forget and I get ahead of myself, if you would like to know more about this particular Glock 19X MOS, we did a full article on it in our handgun special edition, and that is available on our website, the store, wolfoutdoorsports.com. You can head over there, pick up a copy, read all about this handgun. I wrote that some time ago, and I'm still using it to this day. Big fan of the gun, so I'd encourage you guys to check that out if you're interested. Now, walking you through the reloading process or hand loading process for this 9mm Super Snake Shot, what we're doing here, and we have some cases here, of the various stages that we're going to walk you through. We start out with a unfired or couple times fired 223 Remington case. Now Starline does make 223 basic cases, and that would probably be the easiest way to start out this process because all you have to do is trim those down and they're excellent high quality cases. But what I like to do, personally speaking, is take a couple times fired 223 Remington case, just like this one here, and I will go ahead and run it through the sizing die and all that good stuff. Then I'll trim it down in a couple of different steps just to make sure that at the end I have a nice clean face there and it's trimmed down. Then I run it up through another series of dies, and then eventually I have this elongated, tapered brass portion on the case, and then once it's fired it looks like that. So it's a pretty interesting process. Let's go ahead and start out with this couple times fired 223 Remington case. This is kind of how I've been retiring some of my cases. Gives them a little bit of purpose and a little bit longer life. I also would not recommend reloading these. Once you go through this form process, I wouldn't reload it and shoot it again, because the chances of you getting a case neck split or something like that, case head separation, it's pretty high just because of the amount of work hardening we're going to be doing running through these cases. So to start out, I like to use Redding Imperial Sizing Die Wax. It's a phenomenal product, especially if you're doing some pretty heavy case reformation processes and steps. Take this couple times fired 223 Winchester. I'm going to go ahead and place it in there, Redding number 10 shell holder, 223 Remington full length sizing die. Run it up into my squeaky press like so. Pop it out. And then from here, we are good to go, and we'll jump over to the trimming process. So the first step in this process is cutting down the 223 case behind the shoulder. Now I have this Drill Master little 2-inch benchtop cutoff saw, and I have a 3D printed jig in here. This jig is actually designed for reforming 223 Remington cases to 300 blackout cases or 221 Fireball cases. So it's a pretty neat little system. It clamps in on here, and it's specifically made for these little Harbor Freight cutoff saws. It goes in, there's a little ball detent, and it clicks in place like so. And then it's just a simple matter of cutting your case. Now this is going to leave our case a little bit long, but we'll address that in a different step just for simplicity's sake for the video. So we'll go ahead and trim this guy off. And then this guy can pop out here. And sometimes if that neck gets stuck in there, you kind of got to poke it out a little bit. But that works pretty good. And it's very quick, and when you're doing multiple cases on this guy, what's really neat is you can just kind of load it up, and then when you're done, you have the case behind it, and you pop it through like so. So it's a very efficient system, and you can go through quite a few cases pretty quick. And generally speaking, when I'm loading these up, that's how I do it, is in batches. So I'm doing 50 rounds at a time, and that's pretty much a lifetime supply of this snake shot for anybody. So because that jig doesn't get our brass quite short enough, we've still got quite a bit of trimming to do. So to accomplish this, for video simplicity's sake, I'm going to use this Frankfurt Arsenal case prep center with the trimmer head on there. What I like to do is get it roughly started in there like so, and then clamp it down so that's good and tight, and then I can just apply downward pressure on the case and trim it. Show you what that looks like. And then because we are removing so much of that case, I like to use this Forster trimmer. This is their original case trimmer. Really great product. Very efficient, works very well, and it just ensures that we have a clean, flat face on the end of this case. And I've got it already pre-adjusted to bottom out and stop on our correct overall length for this case. which is right at 1.10 inches. 1.110 inches. So now that the case is trimmed to proper length, we can double check it here with our caliper. And we're right on the money there, just a tad below 1.110 inches. I'm going to apply a little bit of a chamfer and deburr, again with the Frankfurt Arsenal Case Prep Center. I've also got a little case brush on there just to kind of clean it out and make sure that there's no trimmings inside the case. So now that we have a good chamfer and deburr applied and our case is trimmed down to the correct length, which again is right around 1.110 inches, in case you were wondering. That is a pretty critical measurement. You want to get that right because if it's too long, it's not going to reliably cycle in your firearm. And also there's some pretty interesting steps that we're going to get into. So let's go ahead and start out. I have a 9mm Luger Mighty Armory sizing die here, and I actually do like to apply just a little bit more Imperial sizing die wax onto the case after the trimming operation. So I'll lube up my fingers, put a little bit of that on there. I'm going to run it up into this 9mm Luger sizing die. And it doesn't have to be a Mighty Armory die. There's a Dillon 9mm die. You can run that up in there as well. A little bit tighter fit on that die. You can see just a little bit of sizing that it went ahead and did. So then from there, this is where things really get interesting. I have a Redding Carbide 32 H&R Magnum full-length sizing die threaded in here to a specific amount. And we're going to run this case up in there. Make sure it's nice and centered up in that die. And it's going to take a little bit of force, nothing excessive. And I like to do this very, very slowly and just take my time. I want to make sure that that case is nice and centered up there in the shell holder, all that good stuff. Because what we're actually doing here now is we're forming that elongated portion that is going to hold a fair amount of extra shot in this little 9mm Luger case. And that's really the big problem with snake shot in 9mm Luger. And I'm rotating the case a little bit here. I've got just a little bit more to go. There we go. That's bottomed out. And what we're doing with this step here is essentially we are creating a false shoulder, which is a critical portion of this case forming process because the 9mm Luger actually headspaces on the case mouth. So what we're doing here, if you look at these two cases, we are creating this little ring right here so that 9mm Luger can still headspace on the case mouth. And when you fire the case, you'll see exactly where it headspaces right there in that little ring. This is a fired case, and this is the case that we just formed. And you can see it's very shiny and bright, but you can see there is a little bit of a false shoulder there for headspacing purposes. So from here, now that we've got our false shoulder and our upper neck portion formed, I've already got some primers in here, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is prime the case on the press. You can come down here like so. Make sure that's seated nice, which it is. If you really want to be technical about it, you can take a measurement, but it should be about 3/1000 below flush, and I can run my fingernail across that, and it works just fine. Now is also a good time to go ahead and check with a case gauge here. I've got one from the shooter's box. This is for 9mm Luger. This is a very handy tool to have when you're forming cases like this. Slip it in there, and I can see that it just if I run my fingernail over, it's just barely below flush, which is perfect. That's exactly where I want it. It's going to slide in and out of that chamber, nice and easy, and we're going to have good head space once we go ahead and fold this over and crimp the case. But the next step in the process is to go ahead and dispense powder and punch out our wad and fill it with shot. So let's show you that. So far in this loading process, this might be the only perfectly normal part of the entire process. But we've got our powder here. This is 2.4 grains of Hodgdon tight group. This is what I settled on. It seems to be working very, very well. And most importantly, it's within pressure. So I've got my funnel here, little powder pan, and charge the case. And this is the Creedmoor Sports TRX 925 Precision Reloading Scale. It's a very, very accurate scale. So then the next step is rather interesting. So I've got my charged case here, right? And then I drink a lot of chocolate milk. And the great thing about chocolate milk is these cartons that it comes in is actually excellent overshot wadding material. So what I do is I take a sharpened case, a 9mm case or one of these expanded cases, sharpen it up, give it a really good chamfer on it. Then I put it on this and I'll whack it out with a hammer. And at the end, I have a perfectly formed little tiny wad that I can go ahead and seat into this case. And to do that, I do that on the press with yet another die, just because efficiency's sake, I find this works really well. So let's showcase that to you now. So we left off with our 32 H&R Magnum sizing die. I'm going to rotate over to a 32 H&R Magnum expanding die, which I have preset already to seat this wad down in that case. And the main reason why I like to do it with this expanding die is it's going to put a little bit of flare on there, and it's also going to kind of crumple the edges of that wad up. And there's a good reason why I want that to happen, and we'll showcase that in just a moment. So I've got a little bit of a squeaky press, but there we go. Our wad is nice and seated down in there. An alternative method is to take a wooden dowel or something like this. Of course, this one doesn't fit, but a wooden dowel or a pencil or something like that should be able to fit down in there and kind of seat your wad if so needed. But once your wad is seated, then you can go ahead and jump back over to the reloading scale here, and we can measure out our shot. So with our wad securely placed inside the case there, it's very important now that we charge our case with the shot. And I've got about 100 grains weighed out here. That's about what I can fit. It depends on the brand of cases that you're using. It can be anywhere from 100 to 110 grains of number 12 shot. I am personally a really big fan of number 12 shot for snakes. I think it works the best. You get really good patterns with them. I've actually got just a smidge too much for this particular case. Just wipe a little bit of that off into there. So I've probably got about 95 grains in this particular load. The other cases that I've made will hold 100 to 110, just depends on your brand. So now I'm going to go ahead and put it back over here to the press, and I'm going to seat another wad over the top of this shot. And this I just do by feel. You have to be rather careful with it. That wad's placed squarely in there. Bump it up in there. That looks just about perfect. So that's what it looks like seated in there. And now for the most unconventional crimp that you have ever seen. What I have over here is a Mighty Armory 9mm Luger seating die. And I highly recommend you use the Mighty Armory dies for this, because not all seating stems are created equal. Theirs is very overbuilt, over-engineered, and you're not going to crack the seating stem. So with this die preset, we can go ahead and run our case up into the die there. And I load a lot of ammunition on this T7, so it is indeed a little bit squeaky. But take a look at that. That perfectly forms that unique nose profile of a bullet. And I think I can go a little bit more. Yeah, there it is. You do have to be careful in this process because you don't want to wrinkle this shoulder. As you can see here, that shoulder is very nice and defined. Taking a look at it, you can see that that's what you're going to headspace off of. And if you apply too much force during this crimping process, you're actually going to wrinkle or crush the case, and you don't want to do that. So there you have it. There is a fully formed 9mm Luger Super Snake Shot load. And we can check our overall loaded length here, make sure we are within spec, which maximum overall loaded length for 9mm Luger is 1.169 inches, I believe. And we're right at that 1.1 inch mark, which is perfect for reliability in a semi-automatic handgun. So that's exactly where I like to be. And there you have it. There's the whole process to loading these 9mm Luger Super Snake Shot loads. Oh, and I can also showcase to you here that these do indeed fit in our case check gauge. This one's from Shooter's Box. And if I drop it in there, it goes perfectly. I'm right just about flush with that. If I put my fingernail over it, it's perfect. That one there, good. And that one is a step down, which means I don't need to trim the case or anything like that. And looking at it in there, it's a nice tight fit. There's no wiggle back and forth that's excessive. So all in all, that is pretty good. Very pleased with that. Now that we've got one load loaded up, let's go ahead and take all the other loads that I've preloaded. We'll hit the range, we'll do some shooting with it, and showcase to you the performance of these loads. So as you can see, we're out on the range now, and we're going to do a little bit of testing with our 9mm Super Snake Shot, as I call it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to move the target back in 5-foot increments and see where that shot pattern starts to open up and showcase that to you, the effectiveness of the shot pattern. And also we're going to show you the reliability, how the Super Snake Shot load will indeed cycle the firearm. Speaking of which, I thought it would be kind of neat to showcase to you how I carry my firearm in the field. This is a newer Badlands Bino harness. I'm a big fan of this one because it doesn't have the magnetic closure. It's nice and quiet. If you're an archery hunter, you can definitely appreciate that. I've got a radio pouch on here and my rangefinder as well. And then I also carry in a Safariland ALS style holster, I've got a Glock 19X MOS, which is my daily carry gun. Typically, I change it up quite a bit because I'm constantly reviewing different firearms, but this is a pretty typical setup of what I'll take into the field when I'm hunting. And as a result, over the years hunting in Arizona, I've come across countless rattlesnakes. I've actually stepped on the head of a rattlesnake and had to shoot it with my foot there, and it was a very bad situation. So this has kind of led to me being very passionate about developing a snake shot load. And so what I've come up with here with my Safariland holster is something that I can rapidly deploy in the field. I can quickly draw my firearm out of my holster, bring it to bear, and we're loaded up with a single round of snake shot. And then underneath that round of snake shot, I have a 115 grain Hornady Critical Duty 9mm Luger round. And this snake shot will actually feed that Critical Duty into the firearm, so I can rapidly have a follow-up shot of 115 grain normal self-defense ammunition, which is pretty neat. So let's go ahead and start testing, and let's pattern our first round, see how it does. So for this load, we're using 2.4 grains of Hodgdon tight group powder with 100 to 110 grains of number 12 shot, depending on the exact case and everything. It's not quite exact measurement. Then we're using CCI 500 primers to ignite our powder charges, and we're using reformed Federal 223 Remington cases. And I've got the gun here loaded up. The snake shot is in the chamber, and I've got a 115 grain Hornady critical duty round in the magazine. Let's go ahead and put one on the target here and check our shot pattern. All right, looks pretty good, nice and tight at this distance, which is to be expected. Magazine's empty now because that round did indeed feed into the chamber. So if I wanted to, I could follow up that snake shot round with a full magazine of 115 grain Hornady critical duties, or whatever my defensive carry ammunition is, which is really, really neat and a big advantage in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons that I developed this load, because I noticed in testing the CCI snake loads, number one, the payload on target looks nothing like that. There's a lot less shot in those things, and they also will not reliably cycle the firearm. So as a result, I worked up this load, and as you can see, if there was a snake there, I'd have a really nice dense shot pattern on them. Let's move the target back. That was shot at 5 yards, or 5 feet, excuse me. We're gonna move the target back to 10 feet now and see what the pattern looks like there, which I think is a very common typical distance for your average engagement with poisonous reptiles. So we've gone from 5 feet, with the target is now at 10 feet. So we're going to put another round on the target. It's the same load as before. We're just testing the same load at various distances. And as always, towards the end of this video, we'll do a full review of the targets and the loads, so stick around for that. But for now, let's go ahead and put a round on the paper. And once again, that gun cycled. This has proven to be 100% reliable in this firearm, as I dump my round on the ground. But there you see it, it ejected from the gun, functioned and cycled just fine, which is really neat. And maybe for that last target that we'll shoot, I'll go ahead and showcase that and shoot the snake shot and then put a couple rounds of 9 behind it. So this is the same exact load. Target is downrange at 15 feet. I've loaded up with the 2 Hornady critical duty rounds, and then in the chamber right now is the 9mm super snake shot. So we're gonna go ahead and put the snake shot on the target, and then I'll follow it up with 2 rounds of Hornady critical duty, just to kind of showcase that it does feed and function, and if need be, you've got the full magazine behind the gun with your personal defense ammunition if need be. So let's go ahead and put a round on the paper. There you go. Works pretty dang good. Slide lock back. Ah, very effective carry option if you're in snake country, and if you still need some 9mm rounds, you can put them right there. So we're back at the bench now. We'll go ahead and review the targets that we just shot, as well as the load data. So we used the same exact load for all 3 of these targets, and taking a look at the first target that we shot at a distance of about 5 feet, if memory serves me correctly. The load we used is Hodgdon tight group powder, a 2.4 grain charge with 100 grains of number 12 shot, CCI 500 primers, and I was using Federal 223 reformed cases for this. And the overall loaded length, if you can even call it that, is 1.10 inches. And you can see from the target there, we had really, really good shot pattern, very tight, very dense, and it would be very effective at that range. But in my opinion, 5 feet is a little bit close for a snake, so we stretched it back then to 10 feet and shot another target, which you guys saw previously, and that target looks really, really good. That is about ideal, in my opinion, as far as the distance from the snake to the handgun, and that performed well. Good dense pattern, hit to point of aim, which is very, very important. And then we went ahead and moved it back to 15 feet, which realistically speaking, I think is about as far as you're going to engage a snake, especially in a self-defense kind of thing where it's dangerous, you need to take it out. Generally speaking, you're going to be very close to that snake. But then also to showcase that it does cycle reliably and all that, I also put 2 rounds of Hornady Critical Duty 115 grain bullets into that target, following up the shot pattern. And the shot pattern definitely is opening up. I think if you were to get much past 15 feet, it would become very ineffective at that point. But you still have a decently dense pattern there at the center. But all in all, I would say 15 feet is kind of pushing it with this particular load. So there you have it. There's the results from shooting. And you can see how effective this load is. Compared to other 9mm Luger shot shell loads or snake shot loads, this has about double the payload. Usually they're around 50 grains. We managed to get 100 grains into these cases. Some cases you can get a little bit more, some cases you can get a little bit less. Again, it just depends on the brand. But as a whole, this is a really neat concept. It is labor intensive to go through and make, as you guys saw. And there's a lot of steps and there's a lot of processes to it. But all in all, I think the performance is really, really good. And it increases the versatility of any gun chambered in 9mm Luger, which, let's face it, it is the most popular handgun cartridge in the world. Not just the United States, but in the world. And having that versatility is very, very nice. And you don't have to worry about messing with those little shot capsules that can break and spill shot everywhere. And if I'm trusting my life to a firearm, it needs to be 100% reliable with that load. And that's what I think I have achieved here. As labor intensive as these are to make, I've made about 50 of them now. And there is some trial and error, and there's not every case will form perfectly. Sometimes your false shoulder will just kind of be one-sided. So you've got to check it with your case gauge. But every one that I've checked has been 100% reliable, and I've put about 50 of these through this Glock 19, about 20 through various other pistols, a SIG, a Smith & Wesson, things like that. So all in all, this has done very, very well. It's proven effective on snakes. I've actually had to use it a couple of times on rattlesnakes that were just simply too close, got too close to the dog, things of that nature. So it does work. It's a proven load. And while it is labor intensive, now you know how to form this case for yourself and load your own 9mm Super Snake Shot. So thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. We'll close out this video with a few comments that you guys have left that I want to respond to. All right, so let's go ahead and take a few moments to dive into some of the comments that you guys have left on videos. And let me preface this and start out by saying, first and foremost, thank you so much for all those who watch and comment. We greatly appreciate it. I love reading them. I still read every single one of your comments. I do my best to respond to them. But as time allows, I respond to them at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what you guys are talking about. And I also apologize in advance for any names that I butcher on here. I am not the best at pronouncing them, so I apologize in advance. But let's go ahead and get started. We just posted a video on the 6mm GT. We did a full load development on it with a GA precision PPR rifle, Pinnacle production rifle, and you guys are talking a lot about it. You seem to like this video so far. So this comment is from LowViz82. He says, Reloader 15.5 works great in the GT, and if you use the Ingenuity Trickler, same disc as 4350, H4350. So LowViz82, thanks for watching, thanks for your comment, greatly appreciate it. You guys dropped some really technical information in your comments, sharing load data, and most people probably don't even know what an Ingenuity Trickler is, and he's talking about use the same disc with this powder, H4350, as you do with Reloader 15.5. The fact that you guys are so knowledgeable, it just blows my mind away. And the fact that you share this in the comments and you help each other out, respond to each other's questions, I absolutely love it. It just brings me so much joy. So keep up the great work, all of you. Now, this is from NunDW. He says, where is the cowboy hat, partner? Well, I'm wearing it today. I don't wear it every single day, but most days I do wear it. I think for that video, I was wearing a ball cap instead, which happens from time to time. In particular, after hunting season when the hair is too long and I can't fit this hat. But anyways, he also follows up his comment. He says, I'm curious as to why you used a middle of the road charge weight for a 6 BRA in a 6 GT with Varget. I mean, you're literally shooting the gun from the person who created the 6 GT. I'm sure one phone call or looking on his website would have given you a better charge weight. From what I remember, the rifle shot pretty good. I'm trying to think. I know I did some load development with it, and Patrick Mateen did some load development with it. I think I was shooting real similar charge weights to what Patrick had shot. I don't think it was anything crazy. The load we showcased in the video may have been a little light or something. But to be honest with you, and here's the thing with the videos, and maybe I need to convey this a little bit better, we don't showcase everything we test in that video. We only show the loads we have time for, which is 4, maybe 5 targets at most in a video, because quite simply they'd be too long. So if you want to see all of the load data, you can do that for free with the exception of the charge weights from loaddata.com. Head on over there, it's our sister website, and type in Handloader TV, find the 6mm GT loads. You can go through there and see what powders we used, what velocities we got. You can see what bullets, the group size, extreme spread, standard deviation, all that stuff completely free. So I would highly encourage you guys, check that out on those video loads, because we do a lot more shooting than just 3 or 4 targets. Believe me, we may only have time to film half of the loads that we shoot. Sometimes it's even less. I think we only did 10 targets on that particular video. And sometimes there's loads that yield better SDs, better accuracy, and they're all there on load data for you to see. So check that out. That could be what you're seeing. Chances are, I know for a fact we tested at least 5 different charge weights per bullet and powder combination. So there's a lot more than just what you see in the video. So then this is on our handloading 260 Remington video. This is from Deshoot68. He says, try and step away from the Magnum primers and use standard. It'll probably pull things together. So on the 260 Remington load development video, I don't think I was using Magnum primers. I could be wrong, but this is a perfect time to bring this up. One thing that a lot of people get confused with, because I shoot a lot of Federal gold medal match primers. And some people get confused with the M at the end of this. These are our Federal number GM100Ms, and they think that M stands for Magnum. It does not stand for Magnum, it stands for match. So use caution there when looking at the Federal primers. A lot of people get those things mixed up for Magnums, but I'm pretty sure in that 260 video I was just shooting standard large rifle primers, not Magnums. So let's see what else you guys have to say. So this is again on our 6mm GT load development video. This is from D Rambo 32. He says, I don't think it was windy out. I think there was just a gale force power wave created by the motion of you trying to run the bolt at Mach 11. Geez, oh Pete, don't rip the handle off there, cowboy. Blew the elbow right out on the one bolt throw. Yes, that bolt was super slick and super smooth on that GT, and it was just, I couldn't help myself. I had to run it like that. It was so slick and felt so good. Phenomenal action on that rifle. And yep, I do have a tendency to blow out the right elbow in my shirts, particular because of all the bench rest shooting I do. But thank you very much for watching. I love reading comments like that. It makes me laugh and kind of makes my day. So let's see here what else you guys are saying. This is also on the GT video. Martin Schussler, I apologize if I butcher that, 1936. He says, very impressive, especially when you consider that there was hardly any POI shift between all those loads. Nice shooting in those conditions as well. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Martin. And that's one thing I've noticed, a very good point on the POI shift. If you have a really good barrel, a really good accurate or precise rifle rather, you will see minimum point of impact shifts from load to load, and it just by nature, if it shoots tighter groups, that's the way it's going to happen. So it can be a good indicator of potential precision for a platform. So you guys are on the things. You guys really take note of these things. So the last comment I want to address here is from MTCKIE68. He says, will you please let us know who made and where the shooting table comes from, please? And it looks like there's several replies to this comment as well. John Smith, D. Rambo, and then MTCKIE68 again. Yeah, you guys all want to know about the shooting bench. So I feel like I need to do a video on the shooting bench we shoot off of. It is a Koenig Jaeger super bench. It's a wonderful bench, very heavy, but very, very, very sturdy. And sadly, that company that made it is no longer in business, and they don't make those benches anymore. They're really hard to find. Occasionally, you'll see them on the used market, but again, it's very rare. So as an alternative these days, I've been recommending folks look into Stuckey's sturdy shooting benches. They're really good. I have one of them, shoot off it a lot when we go to shoot long range in the field and stuff like that. It's been featured on a couple videos on here, and it's much lighter than that Koenig Jaeger as well. It's a good permanent bench solution, that Koenig is. I wouldn't want to haul it around every day for my usual shooting needs. So all in all, there you have it. That's pretty much it. So I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, let us know. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when we post our next video. All the usual YouTube things. It really, really does help us out. And as always, drop a comment. I read every single one of them. And who knows, maybe I'll get to read yours in the next video. I look forward to it, and I'll catch you in the next episode.